Now, over the last 2 weeks, there has been a fire that has been ongoing in LA. And this is a fire that has actually burnt down a lot of houses. A lot of people are left homeless. And these are some of the very expensive houses that you can actually think of. This was a very expensive neighborhood. And looking at the pictures that were online, these were houses which some of them were completely burnt. You can imagine if you had invested your life to building your home, and maybe you had even taken up mortgage that you had paid for a really long time, and then a fire happens and it burns down everything that you have. So you have to start again from zero. And the only advantage there is that you still have the land and you could maybe put up a structure. But if you do not have insurance, this can pose significant challenges to you and also to your family. The other thing is that these fires are becoming more and more common. We have seen them in Australia. We have seen them in Canada, especially in Canada. I saw a story where these fires burn during summer, then during winter they continue to burn under the snow. Yeah, they call them zombie fires. And what happens is after the snow is over, these fires then come back again. Yeah, so once that ice is melted, the fires then pop up again and continue to burn. So there has been an increasing risk of fire-related incidents. And coming back home here in Kenya, about the same times that the LA fires have been ongoing, there has also been a fire in a place called Isiolo. That is around 300 to 500 kilometers from Nairobi. So these fires were burning past us. Yeah? So it's an arid area. And what happened is that a fire erupted and it started burning the grass and also other vegetation. Now, this is a place where majority of the people who live here are pastoralists. Yeah, so they depend on their animals, that is the goats and also cows, as their livelihood. And once this was actually burnt, because a very huge area was actually burnt, yeah, and once this was burnt, it means that the community doesn't have places to actually graze. It will take a very long time for the vegetation to actually come back again. There has also been some incidences in the Komba market where it usually burns down, and a lot of traders actually suffer from the same. So these are increasing incidents of fire, and I saw the need to actually do a video on the same to at least advise you on some of the steps that you can actually take to protect yourself from the same. Now, if you're new to this channel, we usually discuss insurance and also other related types of investment. So please subscribe and also hit on the notification button so that you're notified whenever we do a new video. So like I was saying, fire can be a very big risk, not only to your house, but also to your business. Over the last year, to the end of the last year, we saw a business burn down. This is a business by a popular guy known as Borage. He's very popular online. He owns a business known as Modern Furniture. And at the end of last year, a fire erupted in his business. Now, I believe that investigations are ongoing, but some of these incidences can actually set you back, not only financially, but also the progress that you're making in your business. So it's probably for the good to plan for the same and understand some of the steps that you can actually take to protect yourself from the same. Now, today we'll be looking at fire insurance, at the whole concept of fire insurance, to see how you can actually take up a fire insurance policy, how the policy works, some of the benefits that you can gain from the same. So the standard fire policy covers three types of perils. You have what you call a fire, and then there's lightning, and there's what you call a limited explosion. Now, for a fire to be considered a fire in insurance sense, it must satisfy some conditions. Now, the first one is that there must be heat, and there also must be some flames. Yeah, you can see some flames. There also has to be light. Yeah, and there also has to be smoke. So that will be considered a fire in insurance sense. The fire must also be accidental in nature. So, for example, the houses that were burnt down in LA, that was accidental in nature. You could also perhaps have a fault in your wiring and your house burns up. So it must be an accident, not something intentional. If it was intentional, then it wouldn't be paid by your insurance company. And most people actually understand that. Yeah. But it's also important to understand that if it was for negligence, it will be covered by your insurance company. So by negligence, we mean like if, for example, you left your stove open or on and it caused a fire, that will also be covered by your insurance policy. So that is what constitutes a fire, and those are the conditions that have to be satisfied for your insurance company to actually compensate you for the same. So during these fires, I was actually able to notice that AI is changing a lot of things. Yeah. So they are basically these models that can actually predict where there is a bigger likelihood of some of these risks appearing. And for many people in the area of LA where the houses were actually burnt, some of them had actually been dropped by their insurance providers because some of these AI models had indicated those places to be high risk. And the AI will maybe use climate change and also the availability of fire stations around that place to come up with a model that will determine the amount of premiums that individuals will actually pay in that neighborhood. So in LA, I actually noticed that a lot of people had actually been dropped by their insurance companies, and for some, their premiums had also been increased. Yeah, this is usually done so that the insurance company can actually make a profit and avoid losses. Yeah, so you can expect this to happen not only in policies such as fire, but also in medical insurance policies. You're seeing that rates are increasing for medical insurance policies, especially for those people who are perceived to be in areas where there is a high risk of maybe cancer, and also depending on your age. Yeah, you're finding that some medical insurance policies are actually now offering cancer as a separate cover. So you have a medical insurance policy that will cover you for everything except cancer, and then for cancer they have another medical insurance policy that will cover you for the same. This is actually meant to ensure that those companies are actually getting a return, yeah, and avoiding losses. So the second peril that will be covered under fire is what you call lightning. So this will be damage that has been caused by lightning, whether a fire has occurred or not. And you find that it is very rare for lightning to actually strike either a house or your car or your business. Yeah, and it's very efficient to have this cover under a fire insurance policy, since in most cases when there is lightning, it's also likely to cause a fire. The third peril is what you call limited explosion. Now, for limited explosion, this mainly covers items used for domestic purposes only. So, for example, your water boiler, there's also what they call a pressure cooker. So, if this exploded, then this will be covered under limited explosion as long as it is being used for domestic purposes, right? So there are some exclusions in a fire insurance policy, and one of them is theft. So if, for example, during a fire, people came and stole some of your property, that will not be covered under a fire insurance policy. Yeah, so that will be a separate cover that you have to take up for the same. The second exclusion is if that fire actually spread to other people's property. So, for example, if a fire erupted in your house and it spread to your neighbors' houses, only your house will be covered by that fire insurance policy. Yeah, your neighbors will not be compensated under the policy that you actually took. Yeah, they will have to have had their own insurance policy to cover them for the same. So the third exclusion is fire caused by earthquakes or volcanic eruption. So this will not be covered by your standard fire insurance policy. You will have to have taken an extended policy in order for it to cover you for the same. So, like I said, the standard fire insurance policy will cover you for three types of perils. There is fire, there is lightning, and then there's limited combustion. But you can actually extend that policy in order for it to cover you for additional perils. And this will include, for example, riots, yeah, and civil disorder. So, especially here in Nairobi, you have seen, for example, the Gen Z uprising, where some properties were actually burnt. Yeah. So if you have a standard fire insurance policy, it will not cover you for that. But if you have an extension of the same, it will come with some of those perils. And if, for example, there was a riot and your business or your house got burnt, then you'll be able to be compensated for that. So there's also natural perils, like I told you before, earthquakes, and also volcanic activity is not covered under the standard fire policy. But you can take an extension of the same and it will be able to cover you for that, and also other natural calamities that will also happen. Yeah. So this will include storms and floods, and it will also include earthquakes and also landslides. You can extend that policy even further to cover what are known as miscellaneous perils. So assume that, for example, you live near an airport. There is the risk that an airplane could actually crash into your house. It could do a lot of damage, and probably, unfortunately, people could lose their lives. So you can insure yourself against that. And in the very rare case that a plane actually hits your house, then you'll be able to be compensated for that. There also are people who live in areas where a vehicle could actually plow into your building or into your house, and it could probably set it on fire or it could probably destroy it. So you can take an additional cover for the same, and that is known as an impact peril. So if you're thinking of taking up an insurance policy, what are some of the things that will affect what you end up paying in the end as your premium? The first one is the materials that your building is actually made of. So you could have maybe a building that is made up of very flammable material, and this will mean that you will actually have to pay more for your fire insurance policy. You could also have that your building is built with fire retardant material, and this will mean that you will actually pay less as premium for your fire insurance policy. So the second one is the location of your building and the distance from the fire station. So this will determine the amount of time that it will take firefighters to actually get to your building. So this will also affect the premiums that you will have to pay for your fire insurance policy. Yeah. So the closer you are, the lesser the premiums that you will have to pay. But if you're very far, that means that your premiums will also be very high. Yeah. The third one is the use of that building. What are you using that building for? If, for example, a lot of flammable material is being stored in that building, then that means that your premium will be very high, because chances are that some of that material could actually catch fire and explode. So the specific purpose that you're using that building for will determine the amount of money that you actually pay. For example, if it is maybe a school and there's a factory where a lot of fuel is actually stored, then the school will mean that it is at a lower risk of burning down than that particular factory. So you'll find that the factory will actually pay higher premiums than the school. Yeah. So the fourth thing that will determine the amount of premiums that you will actually be paying is the nature of your surrounding buildings. So are they made up of combustible materials, or is flammable material are stored there. So this will determine the amount of premiums that you will also have to pay. The fifth one is the value of the actual building. Yeah. So definitely the higher the value, you'll find the higher the premiums that you will also pay. Yeah. So it's also important for you to have like sprinklers in your building. This will also reduce the amount of premiums that you have to pay, since this will actually reduce the risk of your building actually catching fire, right? Yes. So that is typically how a fire insurance policy will work. And this was actually one of the pioneer types of insurance policy. Motor insurance policies came in with motor vehicles, medical insurance policies, and not as all the first types of insurance policies were fire insurance policies. It was very important since the beginning to insure yourself against the risks of a fire actually happening. This can really set you back. There has been a lot of cases where you see people's homes burnt down. Yeah, like I was telling you about LA, businesses burning down. So it's perhaps appropriate for you to actually protect yourself in advance and take up an insurance policy for the same. Now, if you have any questions regarding the same, then please leave them on the comment section. And you can also get in touch with me using the contacts that I'll be sharing at the end of this video. And until next time, have a good one.